Hello, it's Grandma Karen. Today I will show you how to change the needle and how to clean the lint from under the feed dog and put oil in your machine. Lint and threads under the feed dog can cause bad stitches. In this video we will be looking at the Bernina 440. As we learn to change the needle, you will see some machines that are not the Bernina 440, but the information is generic and will apply to your machine. We are working near the needle today. Let's be safe. Turn the machine off or unplug it. To dispose of needles, we do not just throw them in the trash where they can poke someone through the plastic bag. We can wrap them in a paper towel before throwing them away. I've made a little container to dispose of mine. I put duct tape around the lid of this can, and then I make a slit in the top so that I can dispose of my needles this way. And then I store this away from little children so that they can't get into it. Your sewing machine needle is part of what makes great stitches. I change the needle often on my machine. How can you tell if you need to change your needle? The following photos will tell you. The yellow arrow is pointing to a needle with a burr or hook on the pointed end of the needle. This can cause bad stitches, broken threads, and damaged fabric. You will need to change the needle if your needle is like this. Sometimes needles break and have to be replaced. If your needle breaks, try to find all the pieces and properly dispose of them. We will discuss how to prevent breaking needles in our next lesson when we sew on fabric. I often start sewing by feeling the back of the needle. If it has a burr or a hook on it, or if it feels rough like sandpaper, I know it's time to change the needle. If my top thread keeps breaking, or if the tension on my stitches look horrible, or the machine is skipping stitches like the top right photo, I first rethread the machine. If I still have this problem, I put in a new needle. Sometimes a bent, a burred, or a damaged needle can cause these problems. If I hear a crunching or a punching sound as the needle goes into the fabric for each stitch, then I know the point of the needle has become dull and I need to change the needle. Eventually you will be able to hear it when the needle is dull. You need to change the needle about every 6 to 8 hours of sewing. Check the needle often. A new needle makes better stitches. Let's look closely at this huge model of a sewing machine needle. At the top of this needle, where the needle goes into the sewing machine, it's rounded. This is the front of the needle. The front of the needle has a groove that runs down to the hole or the eye of the needle. This is where the thread lies. I turn the needle over, and this is the back of the needle. The back of the needle has a flat side at the top instead of a round side. This photo shows the flat side of the needle and the round side of the needle at the top of the shaft. Here's an important stitch note to help reinforce this. A needle that is bent, dull, rough, or has a burr on the end can cause bad stitches. Change the needle every 6 to 8 hours or when you see or feel or hear problems. To take the needle out of the machine, you will have to turn the needle screw. Your machine's needle screw may look similar to one of these. For most machines, you can just use your fingers to loosen the screw. Some machines have a special screwdriver like these photos to loosen the needle screw and remove the needle. To take out the old needle in this machine, I put the presser foot down. I put the needle in its top position, and then I'm going to hold the needle with my left hand, and I'm going to undo the screw by turning it towards me, turning the top of it towards me, and till the needle comes out. I don't want to unscrew this so much that the screw falls out, and I want to make sure I hold on to the needle so that it doesn't fall into the machine. I'm going to place the old needle on a plate or a bowl, and I'm going to take a new needle out of this package here. For this brand, I need to pull this clear plastic part in the front down, and then this part folds back a little. You don't want to fold it back too much or it'll break. And then I can take out a new needle, and then I'm going to put those back into my plate. And then to put this in, I want the flat side of my needle facing the back of my machine. I'm going to put it in that little hole with my left hand, and I'm going to turn the screw until it's tight. And I'm going to make sure that it's pushed up all the way into the machine. If the needle is not into the hole all the way, your machine will not work. I will make another longer video on needles with a lot more information in a later lesson. Your mentor will choose the correct needle to sew your first quilt. There are still a couple more things you need to know about needles that affect your stitches. The yellow arrow on the left side of the photo is pointing to the needle type, which is called universal, and the bottom right arrow is pointing to the needle size, which is 80/12. These two needles help you understand size. You can see the groove down the front of these two needles. The needle on the left is a size 110. See how thick the shaft is? The eye and groove are also large. The needle on the right is a size 60 needle. The shaft and eye are much smaller. The groove is tiny. Look at the thickness and size of the thread in each needle. This thick thread would have a hard time going into the little size 60 needle. The thickness of the shaft is called the size. The groove on the needle where the thread lies and the eye of the needle get bigger as the size of the needle goes up. Thicker threads need larger size needles. Needle style or needle type is how the point of the needle is shaped. The eye of the needle and the cutout behind the eye are also shaped differently for different types of needles. The style or type may be called stretch needle for sewing stretchy fabrics, or leather needle for sewing leather, or embroidery needle for going really fast in embroidery work. They are shaped to best work with different fabrics, different threads, and with different kinds of sewing. I will use a universal type needle size 80/12. It works well with the thread I'm going to use. The important concept here is when a thread is too big or too small for a needle, it can cause bad stitches and can cause thread to shred. The wrong type of needle for your fabric can also cause bad stitches and bad tension. I showed you how to thread your needle in lesson 8, but the Bernina 440 has a manual or automatic threader that I'm going to show you how to use. This needle threader does not work on the smaller size 60 or 70 needles. The needle threader should be used gently. It can break easily. The machine is turned off. I've threaded the machine except for the eye. Using the hand wheel, I put the needle at its highest position. So I'm going to put it back up like that. And then I'm going to push this little gray lever right here. I'm going to push it down, and I'm going to pull this thread over to go under this little hook right there. And I usually use my left finger to do that, but you might have to use your right hand, whatever way works to get it under there. Sometimes I need to push this right side of the needle threader gently towards the front. And I'm going to lay this across the eye under these two little hooks right there. Here's a close-up to show you how to push down the lever and to put the thread under the left hook. After going under the left hook, the thread goes across the eye of the needle and under the hook on the right side of the needle. There's a tiny wire hook that you can't see that pokes out of the eye of the needle. Your thread will go under this wire hook. Now I'm holding the thread tail loosely behind the right hook, kind of up to the right. And then I'm going to let go of the thread and the lever right here at the same time. And sometimes this thread gets caught on the hook. That's okay, you can just pull it down later. Behind the needle eye is a little loop, and I'm just going to pull on that loop until the tail of the thread comes through all the way to the back. Then when my foot is back on the machine, I'm going to put the thread through the little slit on the side, and I'm going to always start sewing with my thread under the foot and in the back. And this is a close-up of the loop that forms behind the needle's eye. Every sewing machine gets lint inside from the thread and the fabric. It needs to be cleaned regularly. Many experts advise cleaning the machine every time the bobbin runs out. If you find your stitches are not good, cleaning your machine usually makes them better. Clean the dust off the outside of the machine with a soft cloth. The machine is unplugged, and I have taken off the slide-off table, removed the needle and the presser foot. I've also removed the top thread. A little lint brush came with your machine. You will need it or some other soft lint brush to clean the machine. Lower the needle a little. Clean lint off of this needle bar right here. Get that nice and clean. And then I'm going to return the needle bar to the highest position. Now we're going to remove this stitch plate. At the back of the stitch plate there is a bullseye mark, and you're going to press on that bullseye mark. And sometimes you have to press really hard. Sometimes you need to press with both fingers, and as this comes up, you just pull up on that and it will come out. I always put all the parts of the machine that I take out onto a bowl or a plate to keep them safe. See all the lint and the fuzz around the feed dog? We're going to clean that in a little while. You can see the bullseye better in this photo. This is where you push to remove the stitch plate. The bobbin area also needs to be exposed for cleaning. Open the bobbin cover and remove the bobbin case. And I'm going to put that in my plate. And make sure that your needle bar is at the highest position. This makes it easier to remove pieces for cleaning. This is the race cover. And there's a little button right here that I'm going to push to release this race cover. So I'm just going to push right there and this swings down. Here's a close-up of the release button that you push to open up the race cover. Now you can see the hook. I'm going to pull that hook out and put it on the plate. I'm going to take it by the little post in the center and take it out, put it on my plate. Now I have all the parts out and I can clean the lint out. And here's a photo of the hook that's been taken out of the machine. I'm going to start by cleaning up here in the feed dog area. I'm going to push all the stuff I can out the front of the machine. I'm not going to push backwards because I don't want my lint and threads to go down into those holes. So let's get this really good and clean. Go at all the corners. Please don't use anything sharp to pull out the lint or the threads. Scratching parts of the machine with a metal tool or pin can cause your threads to break. Now we're going to clean the hook area. Clean all the parts that you can see, back in the corners, around in there. I'm also going to clean this race cover, and I'm going to clean in between the silver part and the black part of this race cover. And I'm going to also clean all the lint off the brush every once in a while and clean the door. I'm going to take my hook now and I'm going to also clean out the hook. Clean inside and in the little holes here on the back. Now this hook has 3 hooked parts on them, right here, right here, and right here. And I'm just going to run my fingers across there and see if it feels like there's any parts that are a little bit sharp or dented or have a little rough edge. If so, then I'm going to take this into my Bernina dealer and I'm going to have them buff off the rough areas. Rough areas on your hook can cause the top thread to break. Do not use canned air on your machine. You can, however, use a special vacuum or mini vacuum attachment. Many of the mini vacuums are made to clean electronics and keyboards. It's important to take your sewing machine in for tune-ups, just like a car. I take my machine in once a year. The technician can make fine-tuning adjustments that I cannot. Your machine also needs oil. Do not put oil in the machine if it's dirty. Clean the lint first. I'm going to put 2 or 3 drops of oil right here on this flat surface. You can see right there is where I put it. My machine begins to make horrible clanking noises if I have neglected to oil it. Use only sewing machine oil in your machine. Do not use any other kind of oil. If your machine is old and the oil is very yellow, it's time to buy a new container of machine oil. It is recommended that you oil your machine after every other time your bobbin runs out. Now it's time to put all the pieces back together. I'm going to place a spool of thread under the front of my machine right there. The hook stays in better if it is tipped. First I'm going to turn the hand wheel to make sure that this half moon shape is on the left side right here with the top and the bottom at the top and the bottom of that circle, that half circle right there. Then I take the shuttle hook, which is also a half moon shape, and I'm going to put the half moon on the right side right there. And I'm going to set it inside there, and I'm going to make sure that it's nice flat and that this edge is flush all the way around here. Then I'm going to take the hinged race cover and I'm going to push it up, and I'm going to push it up on this side right here where the latch is, and I'm going to push it in. I felt it click. Sometimes you can hear it. If it doesn't click, then you might need to rearrange the shuttle hook right there. Now I'm going to put the stitch plate back in place. So I'm going to make sure that the bullseye part is in the back. I'm going to put it in the left side first, and then I'm just going to push down, and now that's in place. The left side of what I call the moon stays in the machine, and the right side of the moon, called the hook, is the part that's taken out. When all the pieces are back in place, I rock the hand wheel back and forth to make sure it is working well. Then I run the machine without thread for a few seconds to get the oil moving around. I thread the machine and sew a few stitches on a scrap of fabric to make sure that no oil will get on my project. And our last stitch note says, lint and dust inside your feed dog and the bobbin area can cause bad stitches and thread jams. Clean out lint after every bobbin change. Oil the machine after every other bobbin change, and when you hear or feel that it needs it. We've had another lesson with a lot of information. You will eventually be able to hear and feel when your machine needs to be cleaned and oiled. For your homework, show your mentor that you can do the following things. 1. Remove the needle from the sewing machine. Replace the needle with the same needle or with a new one. Properly dispose of the old needle. 2. Remove the stitch plate and the bobbin case. Swing open the race cover. Take out the hook. Clean all the lint and thread from these areas and off all the pieces. Oil the machine. 3. Put all the pieces back together correctly. 4. Point out the needle size and the needle type on a package of needles. In our next lesson, we will sew on another practice worksheet and sew on some fabric squares. We will learn what a seam is and how to sew using the guidelines on your stitch plate. See you next time. And here's a note to the mentor. In our next lesson, we will use the machine with thread. Print out the worksheet posted under the video link for Lesson 10, or look at the handout and draw a similar paper. You will need the following: 6 squares or rectangles of fabric at least 3 inches by 3 inches. 2 long pieces of fabric at least 12 inches long and at least 2 inches wide. You're going to need pins and small scissors. Thank you for helping someone learn to sew.